Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Women's League Child Development Center. We are absolutely thrilled to be here to host such an incredible announcement that has the ability to change the infrastructure of the early childhood education field, not just for centers like the Women's League, but for centers across the state of Connecticut. As you stand in this room, the Women's League Child Development Center is over 100 years old. We have been providing services to the families and children of the Hartford community for over 100 years. We remain committed to that mission, but through COVID, it has been difficult. There have been many challenges to continue to remain open and to have our operational budget so that we can sustain keeping our staff employed and taking care of all of the additional expenses that have come along with being open during COVID. We have experienced increases in our daily operational cost. We have experienced increases in our ability or in the costs related to keeping our building clean and sanitized and healthy for staff and children. And of course, providing staff with PPE and meeting mandates such as the Family Medical Leave Act that required us to pay staff if they or a family member were quarantined under COVID. So those were a huge lift for us to meet those various mandates, but we felt that it was critical that we do so, that we reopen our center as we did in July of 2020 with only 45 students at that time. But we remained committed to be open because we wanted our families to know that we were here for them as a support, because we know that for any family who has a young child to be gainfully employed, they need reliable child care. And we wanted to provide that for our families in Hartford who had been hit perhaps the hardest with the loss of jobs and with the changes in the economy. So I'm proud to stand here today to say that we have weathered the storm, that our enrollment is increasing, but we are still only at about half of the enrollment that we had prior to COVID. It has been a tough time and it has required tough decisions. I'm grateful that two of my board members are here this morning, Marcia Howard and Jane Torrey, who have spent hours with me on Zoom calls, trying to figure out the right things to do, what sacrifices we can make to keep the Women's League open. And in some of those meetings when we sit with our accountant who reminds us that we are in the red, those are tough conversations, but we continue to forge ahead, and we have greatly benefited from the support and the advocacy of the Office for Early Childhood Education under the leadership of Beth Bai. And that has allowed us to weather some of these tough storms, knowing that there were people advocating for early childhood education. Congressman Larson, Governor Lamont, it has meant the world for early childhood education that's been so underviewed to now be in the forefront, to have people talking about not only how do we stay open, but how do we thrive and reimagine the next level for early childhood education. The last thing that I want to say is that we know that early childhood education is important to the economy of the state of Connecticut. But I also want to remind you that it is important to the educational outcomes for the children in the state of Connecticut. The research has shown that children who attend a high-quality early childhood education program have greater academic outcomes, not only when they go to kindergarten, but through middle school and high school, and are more likely to go on to college. So supporting early childhood education is supporting the economy in many ways, is making sure that our workforce of the future is educated and prepared to do the work that's essential for Connecticut as a state to continue to thrive. So while we think about our families and them having reliable child care, I also want you to think about the gift that we give children, particularly the children that come to a center like the Women's League. where 95% of our families meet the guidelines for a federal subsidy, whether it's a CDC grant or school readiness. These are families that without this high-quality setting, their children will be less prepared for when they go on to kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, and high school. So I thank you, Commissioner Bai, Congressman Larson, and Governor Lamont for making this issue around early childhood education not only an important one, but one in which you've provided the means for finances to come to us to help us continue to operate and to expand the quality of what we do here each and every day for children and families. So thank you, and it is my pleasure now to introduce to you Commissioner Beth Bai.
Childhood system in the state, and part of Governor Lamont's program is to say, if you meet that high quality standard, we're going to pay you much more per child, because that means you're doing what you need to support your staff, you're doing what you need to support those young minds. And so Karen, we're so grateful for your leadership here and what you're doing, and Governor Lamont and Congressman Larson, your understanding of how important this is for families, because this is about helping families at a very difficult time and about supporting children at what's been a very difficult time by being open and helping programs stay open with some of those added costs. So I'm really here just to say thank you, and OEC will continue to work with you and with programs are sort of in between to make sure the kids in Connecticut get the highest quality care possible and that families can get back to work and get what they need in a way that's affordable to them, because we know child care has not been affordable for families, and the child care industry cannot make it on what they're being paid right now. So it was fragile before, but these funds have really helped us reimagine, and Governor Lamont has been very clear with us that we are to think bold and think about how do we use these American Rescue Plan dollars to make things better than they were before the pandemic and make a system that works. So thank you. I think my job is to introduce Congressman Larson, who I've certainly known for 2 decades, and appreciated your support of education from preschool right through workforce development. You've really been a champion for Connecticut. So go ahead.
I was going to say thank you, Senator, Commissioner. That's how long we've known one another, and thank you for the terrific job that you're doing on behalf of children. And Karen, it's great to be here again, and what Steve Harris would call the 06120. This is the poorest zip code in the state of Connecticut, and so let me applaud the governor and his team. We say his team because we now, with his advocacy from day one, and how proud is the entire Connecticut delegation to know that in the midst of COVID, to be able to say, this is what our state is doing, this is what our governor is providing in terms of leadership. And I think everybody can agree when it comes to leadership the temperament and style and focus that Governor Lamont has brought to this pandemic has been extraordinary, and he's been recognized for that nationally. And his advocacy for the delegation, and I want to commend the entire delegation, but just as I cannot leave the point of early child care development without citing Rosa DeLauro, our new appropriations chair, who worked for 18 years, and finally, we've got the child care tax credit that families so richly need and deserve. We're here today, as Karen pointed out, because of the $277 million of the part of the COVID money that's coming to the state of Connecticut. Is here so that we can address both the Child Care Development Block Grant and Child Care Stabilization. I think Beth and Karen have described it perfectly, and why we need both of those elements. And when you add to that the monies that are going to people individually because of this pandemic, it turned everything upside down. More than 30 million, I think it's 30 million women who are out of back home and out of work, and between school shutdowns and the problems that and people being at home, child care was hurt as well. And we cannot lose sight of this very important human infrastructure. I remember Dr. Edward Ziegler out of Yale, governor, and Beth is very familiar. We collaborated together. We passed the first family and medical leave bill in the country in the state of Connecticut. We were always proud of that, but the focus that he had and the vision of one that this governor and the General Assembly and his team and the commissioners have all embraced is the right track. And we're just so proud that we're able to get the funding and continue to help the state of Connecticut and help centers like this. And Karen, I can't say enough about the work the Governor and I were yesterday at St. Francis Hospital with Senator Blumenthal, talking about getting monies there as well and needed them. But the important thing that we want to highlight is those heroes and heroines on the front line of this pandemic and all the extraordinary work that you have done. You are tremendous advocates, and this is all money going directly where it's needed the most. And no one understands that better than the governor of the state of Connecticut. My honor to introduce them.
Hey, thank you, John, and to you and the entire delegation, and President Biden and Kamala Harris, who was here a week ago, taking the lead on this in the federal government. You made all this possible. And Karen and Beth and I and the grandchildren of a lot of the folks right back here appreciate that every day. Beth and I were here back during the worst of the pandemic when we really realized how vital child care was. And this was for folks who were working at the hospitals right at the peak of the pandemic. And we had to raise money privately. We scraped a little bit to get by to make sure we could get going. And now here's our chance to continue to expand everything we're trying to do. You know, Karen, the league, the Women's League, it's remarkable. I mean, I think you told me, there's Thurman Milner, right? Didn't he come here? And there's Sean Wooden's grandmother. This is a family institution that goes back many generations. And that shows in the love and care that they bring to child care and what that means for people. And now that you have the funding, thanks to the rescue plan, we can continue to keep operating and expand. Karen told me we have additional capacity here right now for people that want and need care for their kids, care for their toddlers, care for their infants. Come here to the Women's League. They've been here since 1921, is that what you said? It's early 1936 for child care. And they're going to be here a lot longer thanks to the incredible investments we're getting from our partners in Washington, D.C. And this is the right thing to do for these kids. It's the right thing to do for their parents, allows them to get back in the game. And it's really an important investment for our state as we get back to a new normal. So, John, I can't thank you enough for everything this means.
Thank you.
from Fox 61. We're live on the morning show right now. Curious how you're deciding which organizations in Connecticut will be the recipients of that money, and when people like Karen and her board should see that money trickle down into their own
Why don't you
coffers.
take that?
Yes, sure. Thanks for that question, because I do think people are wondering that. So the way that Congress structured this bill is about $160 million is meant to go right out in grants to programs to support infrastructure. So every licensed child care center and family child care home will be eligible to receive these funds, and the grant formula is set up where a program like the Women's League, which is accredited, serves infants and toddlers, which is a real need, and is in a low-income community. The grants will be higher, about double, because Karen meets all three of those areas. And the funds should be out, the grant application will be out by mid-April for programs to apply. We're expecting the rescue dollars to land any day. So we're waiting for the dollars to land, but we're getting the application out now so that when the funds come, we'll be ready to send those out.
What is your message to parents who have kept their kids maybe on the sidelines for a little while as they wait to see if their children's facility will get the resources that they need? What's your message today?
Yeah, I think there are a couple messages. One is that the governor has asked us to make childcare more affordable for as many families as possible in Connecticut, and you'll see that in some of the policies that he's announced in the last week. The second piece is that childcare is safe. It's not that there are 0 cases, but there have been 4,000, up to 4,000 programs open in Connecticut. They have been following public health protocol. Those of you who came in here, they are having their temperature taken. They're asked if there are any illness in the family. They're following all the public health guidance. OEC is working with them. We're working with DPH next week to put on another webinar about best practices. So childcare is available and safe. And it's, we need families to feel comfortable in that. And that's why we have a lot of very specific restrictions. 3-year-olds are wearing masks in childcare in Connecticut. We're one of just 4 or 5 states requiring that. And we've had really good outcomes from that. Now, we look forward to the day when that won't be the case, and we're watching the public health guidance carefully. But parents should know that Connecticut has some of the strongest health and safety regulations. And I know, Karen, you're running a fantastic program here and have been able to really mitigate the spread of COVID-19.
Governor, we have seen infection rates tip up a little bit, but on a good note, 16 and over are able to get vaccinated today. Where is the picture this morning as we stand in the state of Connecticut?
The picture is that we're going to make appointments for 100,000 people today. And that's now all ages are available. And as Beth followed up, we prioritized some time ago not only teachers and educators, daycare. So if you said, what's the message? John whispered in my ear, hope is on the way. But I also tell those parents, you can bring your child right here to the Women's League. It's safe. Kids are wearing the masks. The counselors have been vaccinated, and that makes a difference. We've got a good supply of vaccine. It continues to come. You maybe heard some questions about the J&J vaccine. Our supply for this week has arrived. Our supply for next week is on schedule. So it may take a little bit of patience. I know there are a lot of people who are ready to get vaccinated, but 100,000 appointments today.
Governor, after next week, what happens with the Johnson & Johnson deliveries? Because I believe, aren't you guys getting 3-week windows now? And how is that going to affect the vaccination program?
Good for this week, good for next week. The week thereafter, Paul, there may be a slowdown in J&J, but there may be a speed up in Pfizer. So let me get back to you on that.
Another point, Governor, you have any words on infrastructure? That's a very hot topic this week. Where is Connecticut going to be on the list of getting some funding?
Well, I've got a good friend who's on the Ways and Means Committee, and I know a woman who runs appropriations. We got a chairman of the Ways and Means right down the street in Springfield. So, and we have a need. Let's face it, we're a pretty old state. We have old infrastructure. I'm from a town. You were there as well when the Myers River Bridge collapsed. And so we're going to do everything we can in terms of making sure that Connecticut is prepared to get the front of the line. John Larson and I were just talking a few days ago about Hartford 400, big, bold strategies that get this state moving again. And by the way, I love the idea of opening up our city, starting with Hartford to the river. Do you want to add to that, John?
Well, first and foremost, let me commend President Biden for following through on what he said he would do. And he hasn't been in office yet, about 60-plus days. And we said we were going to tackle COVID, and he has, and delivered on the American Rescue Plan. And we sincerely hope, too, that this there will be a bipartisan effort on infrastructure because it's needed. And the president is thinking big and bold, and that's what the economists are telling them to do as well. Not make the same mistakes that we made in 2008 and 2009, which led to a slow, sluggish coming out of the crisis that we faced back in 2008, 2009. And so, yes, we're excited about the funds, and as the governor said, and I was telling Chris earlier that, 8491 in this region, the state has many infrastructure needs. And this is going to go beyond highways and bridges and rail and airports. It's going to be human infrastructure as well, which will have an impact on facilities like this. But I believe you were talking about the physical infrastructure, Chris, so let me say that we're very focused on this, and the governor said it best, that when you have the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee in Springfield and the chair of the Appropriations Committee in New Haven, I think we're going to get good focus in terms of what we need. Chairman DeFazio, the head of the Transportation Committee, has been to Connecticut several times, has met with the governor the last time he was here. And I think everybody in Congress, and that's why I truly hope that it's bipartisan, because look, just like this pandemic, infrastructure isn't red or blue or isn't liberal or conservative or Democrat or Republican. It's what the people need, and long overdue. And as important, it will be what puts the nation back to work. The American Rescue Plan is the biggest aid directly to people since the New Deal. And this infrastructure plan that the President Biden has laid out is going to be on the same scale as well. And this is exactly what the nation needs to do, is to lean in, put our shoulder to our wheel, roll up the sleeves. We've now put vaccinations in people's arms and kids back in school, money in your pocket, and now put people back to work with a bold infrastructure plan that will take us there.
On a lighter note, I might ask about our Yukon Huskies. Anyone want to ask this? Commissioner, I might start with you. You are a woman, you are a leader in this community for little kids who are looking up to these women who are dominating on and off the court. What's the message?
Well, I'm still angry that I didn't go to Yukon to play basketball. Went to University of New Hampshire. Bad mistake. But I think it means the world to kids to see these Lady Huskies, and they're watching. I see kids in our neighborhood playing basketball. I know the governor, on all of our commissioner calls, we talk about the Huskies. I always say the governor has the second best team in Connecticut with his commissioners, next to Gino and the Lady Huskies, our best team. We're so excited for that and what it means to kids, but it's going to be a tough game. Arizona is going to be tough, and then South Carolina or Stanford will be even tougher. But I don't know, Governor, you might have some Lady Husky things to share. Right?
What's your message to the team, Governor?
That we are all cheering you on. You are doing Connecticut proud. We're so proud. Look, a lot of these are juniors and freshmen. Freshmen standing up under the national spotlight, winning, and winning with class, and winning as a team. That's what I love about the Yukon Huskies. They're winning as a team. Don't let me down, Gino.
Congressman, what does it say to young people about possibilities? I mean, the money we're talking about today, all designed to give people a good start. Sports just a piece of an educational component, but what does it say to kids?
Well, it's such great pride that we all take in what the University of Connecticut has been able to do over the years, both men's and women's basketball. But Gino Auriemma is in a league all of his own. 13 consecutive trips to the Final Four. I don't believe that that's ever been, I don't even think John Wooden went 13 consecutive years to the Final Four. And it's been an inspiration for male and females to watch this team, this, as the governor said, the source of pride that it brings our state. I'm on a chain of with members of Congress. We call it sports buddies, and so Joe Courtney and I have been doing an awful lot of bragging lately about the University of Connecticut, and couldn't be prouder. And I think this means an awful lot to our state, and we're so proud of the effort that the women team has put forward. And let's give Chris Daly a nod here too for taking us through those first couple of games. They weren't nail biters like Baylor, but nonetheless, here we are headed into the Final Four for the 13th consecutive year.
I hate to bring things down after that upbeat.
But don't.
I just have to ask, have you heard of any issues with the appointment system? We go through this every phase, and
Paul's asking about the appointment system, especially the online appointment
I've seen some
system.
complaints about
You're
that.
right. It gets everybody's sitting there at 12:01 on April 1st this morning, and one of the systems was overwhelmed there for an hour or so. Again, I just urge you to be patient. There's going to be plenty of vaccine. Everybody can get vaccinated. You get your first shot within 2 or 3 weeks. If you're a little younger, a little healthier, give the folks a little bit older, maybe have a vulnerability, give them a little extra time.
And I don't think I heard the three of you predict a victory. You guys confident of another Final Four appearance and a national championship?
It's easy for me to predict, and the other team, our team has to deliver it, but I believe in this team. I'm with John. I think you're going to see national champions coming out of the UConn women. Regardless, they're an amazing team.
Yeah, I've watched every play all season. I think that one of the most exciting things about this.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Sorry. Yep.
Building our sportscast.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good.
Having watched every play all year, it's just such a wonderful thing. But there's never been this much parity in women's sports. We are seeing there are 8 teams that could have won this year, and now we're down to 4 left. Depends on a lot of things. I, of course, rooting hard for the Huskies, but there's never been a year with this much talent and what that means for young women and all these role models and how many people are watching. It's more than ever are watching, so the public is seeing that. And of course, the Huskies got to win, but it's going to be tight. It's going to be tough.
And having a freshman who's the National Player of the Year. Unbelievable.
First time ever.
Yep.
First time ever.
Yeah.
All right, that's a wrap. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I redeemed myself.
There you go. You redeemed yourself, Paul.